Now, a lot of this work that I'm talking about today and that I'll talk about next time actually comes from the self-help movement. In many ways, the self-help movement was started, at least in the 20th century, was started with the understanding that we create the world through our thinking, that our mind creates the world. And books like these came out back in the 1930s, Think and Grow Rich. This book, since 1930, sold over 60 million copies. It's still selling. It's a bestseller in the US, it's a bestseller in China and India, it's a bestseller in Africa, it's a bestseller in Europe. It has an impact on people, and here is one of the things that Napoleon Hill says. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Very empowering. And this had an impact on many different people, on the masses. Again, 60 million copies, one of the best sellers in history. Henry Ford had a similar idea. Whether you think you can or can't, you are right. And people were drawn to this message. Why? Because it's empowering, because it makes them feel that things are possible. Another very influential book, The Power of Positive Thinking, Norman Vincent Peale. Have great hopes and dare to go out for them. Have great dreams and dare to live them. Have tremendous expectations and believe in them. How inspiring for people to hear that. All you need to do is think. All you need to do is believe. And affluence will come to you. Whether it's interpersonal affluence, whether it's monetary affluence. And this has been a message that has drawn the masses and continues to do so today. The best-selling book today, #1 bestseller all over the world. That's right, The Secret. The secret to success is what they call the law of attraction. The law of attraction is that you attract to your life whatever you imagine, whatever you believe in. Again, a powerful message. Millions and millions of copies of this book being sold. As we speak, continue to be sold. And the message is again simple. Believe and you will achieve. Conceive and it will be conceived. In reality, in the world, it will come to you. Very convincing, very inspiring message, but is this message right? Well, we talked about this and we saw the Roger Bannister story. One day or 6 weeks after Roger Bannister runs the mile in 4 minutes, or 3:59, John Landy runs it in 3:57.9. The year after, 37 runners run the mile in under 4 minutes. So there is something to it. Once they believed it was possible, it became possible. And here is the issue with much of what's going on in the self-help realm today. It draws on a truth, a real truth, and then blows it out of proportion. So yes, there is some truth in the fact that our mind creates reality. But that's only part of the truth. We create reality, or rather we co-create reality. There has to be something out there or in there. For example, when it comes to The Secret, if you believe that you're likely to succeed, you're much more likely to succeed, but that has to come with a lot of hard work and persistence. It has to come with a lot of failure and learning from that failure. So it's just half of the equation, and what these self-help books and messages do is overpromise and underdeliver, which at times can be destructive. For example, if everything is based on the law of attraction, I create everything, that everything is up to me, and also everything is my fault, even taken to the extreme. Is a 3-year-old girl responsible for being abused? Is a 30-year-old man responsible for being paralyzed as a result of an accident by a drunken driver? There are certain things that are out there, and when we say that everything is up to us, everything is created by the law of attraction, then it's a prescription, maybe in the short term for inspiration and for belief and for well-being, but in the long term, it's for frustration, for guilt, and for unhappiness. And also for less success, because if I really believe that it's all about thinking, then this is going to be my mindset. All I need to do is believe, and then all the money will come to me. All the success in a relationship will come to me, and that does away with the hard work, with the persistence, with the failure that is necessary, part and parcel of a successful, happy, fulfilling human life. I want to show you a quick video. This is of an ad I saw online, and I actually called the Royal Bank of Scotland and asked them to send me the original, because it captures some of the misunderstanding that there is today about the power of the mind. Just a very cute ad.
Douglas, from the conference. James Anderson. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. That's a lot of green. What kind of bird is it? I don't know. Okay, guys, I've done a course. What? Positive thinking. Positive thought makes a positive impact. Okay? Positive thought has a positive impact. Look at me. That's right, okay.
Talk is no substitute for action.
That's the power.
Make it happen. The Royal Bank of Scotland Group.
I am good.
Yes, you are.
It captures part of the truth, but not the whole truth. So let's see what serious research has to say about the power of the mind. A real phenomenon, actual phenomenon, but one that we need to also apply real research to and see what works. Albert Bandura, whom you're reading about for this week, has done a lot of work on the concept of self-efficacy, which is essentially the academic term for believing in oneself. And here is what he writes after decades and decades of research. He, by the way, won the Researcher's Prize for the Positive Psychologist last year. So he's doing a lot of research in this area. He's from Stanford. Beliefs in personal efficacy affect life choices, level of motivation, quality of functioning, resilience to adversity, and vulnerability to stress and depression. Those who believe in themselves, who have confidence, do well across different areas in their lives. He continues. People who regard themselves as highly efficacious act, think, and feel differently from those who perceive themselves as inefficacious. They produce their own future rather than simply foretell it. In other words, what he's talking about here is that these people are scribes in their own lives. They create their own lives as opposed to their lives being prescribed by others. They're more resilient, better able to deal with hardships and difficulties. In other words, better capacity, as we discussed earlier, to deal with difficulties. Now, the important thing about this research and his research over the years is that it can be learned. It's cultivated over time. So it would be useless if, in terms of research, at least for us, if he would say, well, some people are born with it and others are not. Some people are born with what they started to talk about, the resilient gene, and others are not born with that. But that's not the case. What he has shown is that it can be learned. It takes time, it takes effort, and we'll talk about later how we do it. But the important thing, it's malleable. We can do something about it. Other research by Curry on college athletes, I know there are many athletes in this room, she showed that 56% of your success as an athlete, once you start being an athlete, is determined by levels of hope, by how much you believe that you are going to succeed. Remember from the very first or second class where I talked about the research by John Cotter about the business HBS graduates, where the two things predicted success in the long term, extraordinary success of these grads. One was that they were constantly asking questions, and two was that they believed in themselves. They thought they could do well. But it's important to also realize that it's not 100% of the variance that's explained by hope or by belief or by optimism, as many of the self-help books would have us believe. But it's certainly part of the equation of success. Nathaniel Branden has been a therapist for 50 years, has done a lot of rigorous philosophical and psychological research and work on the concept of self-esteem. We'll visit him more in depth when we have the week on self-esteem. But for now, just a quick quote. The level of our self-esteem, in other words, the level of our belief in ourselves, has profound consequences for every aspect of our existence. How we operate in the workplace, how we deal with people, how high we're likely to rise, how much we're likely to achieve, and in the personal realm, with whom we're likely to fall in love, how we interact with our spouse, children, and friends, what level of personal happiness we attain. Very low levels of correlation between material affluence and well-being, or between where we live and well-being. Very high correlation between self-esteem and well-being. In most research, what we find is a 0.7 correlation between the two constructs. This is what I found in my dissertation as well. So self-esteem matters. The internal matters. And what we're doing when we raise our levels of belief in ourselves, is we're transforming our mind. We're changing the form so that we see the world differently. We perceive different things. We experience things in a different way, whether it's successes that we then celebrate or failures that we then learn from and turn into opportunities. But so much of it is about what we have inside here. Branden, self-concept is destiny. Very similar to whatever your mind can conceive it can achieve from Napoleon Hill. The only difference being that he also puts a lot of rigorous thinking and research there and shows the limitation of the belief. Here's another example of research done in this area which most people know about, the placebo effect. You go to the doctor, you have a headache, the doctor tells you, here I have a pill for you. The best thing just came out recently, will help you get over the headache. Gives you the pill, you get over the headache. Unbeknownst to you, what she gave you was a sugar pill. But because you believed that it will help your headache, it actually did help your headache. Real phenomenon in medicine. So Herbert Benson, from across the river, from the medical school here, has done a lot of research in this area. Let me share with you just two of his studies. What Benson did was bring in women who were pregnant and who had stomach problems, were vomiting, they were throwing up, they were nauseous, something which is relatively common, especially in the first trimester of pregnancy. So he brought them in and told them, I have this new pill for you that will help you overcome your stomach distress. You won't throw up anymore after this. It's a very powerful and good pill. So he gave them that pill, and they got over their stomach distress. They were better. They didn't know, of course, that this was just a placebo drug, just a sugar pill. Then he took it a step further, brought in another group of women with the exact same stomach distress, with the same vomiting, gave them a pill he told them would help them overcome their stomach distress. Only this time, instead of a sugar pill, he actually gave them small dosage, not dangerous, but a small dosage of Ipecac. Now, those of you who know what Ipecac is, it's a drug that we take if we want to throw up. So if we have food poisoning, we take this drug and it will actually elicit vomiting. So he gave him this drug, and again, this passed all the ethical reviews and was not dangerous. But that's what he did. And these women were told that they'd get better. And they did get better. Not only did they not vomit as they should have done, more so with the ipecac, they actually stopped. Let me read you an excerpt from his book, which I highly recommend, Timeless Healing. I quote, "Remarkably, the patient's nausea and vomiting ceased entirely, and their stomach contractions, as measured through the balloons, returned to normal. Because they believed they received anti-nausea medicine, the women reversed the proven action of a powerful drug. Even though many of us stock our medicine cabinets and first aid kits with ipecac to bring about vomiting in case of poisoning, these pregnant women with documented stomach distress thwarted the action of a drug that should have made them even sicker. With beliefs alone, they cured themselves." Now, this doesn't mean that drugs don't have an effect. I don't recommend going home now and, giving your roommate, ipecac or even worse, cyanide and telling them this is actually vitamin C. They will probably not feel better or healthier as a result. But what this experiment does, and many others like it show, is the powerful effect of the mind, which we shouldn't discard. We need to study and understand. Or here's another experiment that Benson writes about in his book. This was done in Japan. So people who were allergic to a specific plant were brought into a lab, had their eyes closed, and then they had this plant touch their forearm. And then they had another plant touch their other forearm, and they didn't know which was which. And of course, the plant that they were allergic to, the arm flared up. They were allergic to it after all. But then there was a second condition. These people were told that the actual drug that they were allergic to touched their left hand. And another plant that they were not allergic to touched their right hand. But Benson reversed the effect. So actually the plant that they were allergic to touched their right hand, the plant that they were not allergic to touched their left hand. So they were supposed to flare up on the right, not on the left. But because they believed that their allergic plant was on the left, their left hand flared up, their right hand did not. Based on the power of the mind. Once again, this does not mean that the external doesn't matter and that we attract everything that we want to into our lives. But it does mean that the mind plays a very important role in creating our physical, certainly emotional, cognitive, as well as external reality.